everybody, it's KayBeast, and for this week's video I continued my Mythical Creatures series that I do at the end of every month. And if you haven't seen the other one, basically the whole idea of the series, it's an exercise to get me into making more original artwork, and I also explore the whole process of making a piece of art, including sketches and color comps and thumbnails and such, to really sort of make the piece as best as it can be. So for this month's piece, I made a Selkie. I'm a huge fan of the movie Song of the Sea, and I highly recommend this movie. Like, it is amazing. But I really wanted to make sure that my Selkie was a bit original and wasn't too influenced by that movie, because I wanted to do my own thing. So I kind of struggled with the concept for a while. I wasn't really sure how to portray the Selkie and, you know, what to do with it, because I really wanted to make sure it was unique. And what I wound up doing is I actually found this watercolor technique that I really liked and I've always wanted to try, and I used that as inspiration for the piece, basically, which was kind of a backwards way of doing it, but that's just kind of how it happened. So in the beginning you saw my early sketches when I was still thinking of a concept, and then I did a color comp, which was also me testing out the technique. What I did was, it's called negative watercolor painting, and it's when you fill in color in the negative space around an object instead of inside the object itself, and you kind of build up layers to create depth and such. And I've wanted to try it for a while. I've seen some pretty cool versions of this on a couple of channels. Pearlfleur, if I'm saying that correctly, and Iraville has done some negative watercolor painting on their channels, and I've always wanted to try it, so I did. So once I knew the technique I wanted to do, and after I'd practiced it on that little piece of paper, I went online and I found some photos of seals swimming to get a better idea of their body shapes and the movements they make when they swim, and did a rough sketch where I kind of planned out where some of them would go, but a lot of the ones I kind of did spontaneously because of the nature of the painting. You don't really draw, you just kind of do around it, I guess. I don't know. But I had a lot of fun doing this, actually. I also used some new masking fluid. I managed to find the Fineline masking fluid. It's got that needle tip for really thin lines that you can do. I found it at Michael's one day, decided to grab it and try it out. And it was really good for fine details, but I probably should have just used my regular stuff for the larger shapes like the seals, because I used a lot more of that fluid than I probably should have. And its drying time was a lot longer than my Winsor and Newton stuff, so I was actually Skyping with my girlfriend when I was working on this, and she was laughing at me because I was pouting for like a good 30-40 minutes because I wanted to paint, but it wasn't dry yet. So yeah, but it works very well. It flows really well. I just need to plan ahead better when I know I'm using it. So after I did several layers for the seals, I used salt techniques on the bottom too, on each layer, because I really wanted to keep the texture in like the deeper part of it. And then I went in with some really tiny brushes to do the Selkie herself, and I basically just did a woman wearing the pelt, and she's kind of taking it off, and she's just kind of sitting on this little sheet of ice. I don't want to really call it an iceberg because it's not that big, but I kind of use that as a reference for the shape because I wanted to know what it would look like underwater, so it's like a mini iceberg, I guess. But yeah, this painting the details on her was very difficult. I bought this really tiny brush. It's like a quadruple zero brush. It's like 3 hairs, and I used that to do like the details on her face and in the hair and a bit of the shading, and oh my gosh, that thing is so tiny, and it's perfect because I really like to do fine details and I've needed a tiny brush, but this thing is like so tiny. So building up layers with it is a bit time consuming. But yeah. And then I went in and I just did basic coloring on the ice itself and on the water and everything, and then I went in and did some shadow work, and I also did a flat wash on the bottom to create depth. I was inspired by Donna Cassell's flat wash tutorial. I had actually watched it that morning that I worked on this. So, you know, I was kind of combining a whole lot of things I've been learning from other YouTubers when I was working on this piece, which was a lot of fun, and it's definitely something I want to continue to do. I'm definitely trying to experiment more with my watercolor pieces right now, trying to do different techniques that I've never done before, and also this one is kind of a different style than what I usually do. Most of my paintings in the past have been very like focused on the line art, very detailed line art, and aside from the Selkie herself, I didn't really do much line art. I took some Payne's Gray with my quadruple zero brush, and I went in and did just a couple of small lines on the seals themselves, mostly just to bring out the shapes a little better and to show where things cross over each other, like they're flippers or whatever. But I didn't want to do any crazy line art. I really wanted this to look softer and the focus to be on the colors themselves, I guess, or on the shapes. I don't know. I think I'm rambling. But anyway. But I did have a lot of fun with this piece, and negative watercolor is definitely something I would like to play with more. I'm just kind of planning out how I would do it. Maybe try it with ink. I might try it with ink. I rebuilded that in a video and it looked really cool, so we shall see. But yeah, and then I did a couple of darker shapes, and then I had to pull out my Finetecs because they're my Finetecs and they're amazing and I love them, to do a couple of other shapes. And in my head, as I was painting the seals with the silver Finetec, in my head I was thinking that these were other Selkies, and that's why they were shining. And then the other ones are just regular seals, so there's my little head canon for you. And yes, I did a little zoom in and I slowed it down because it looks so pretty on the paper. I love this stuff so much. And then afterwards I added some spots to them. In my initial sketches I was going to make the seals harbor seals, which are sort of like a solid color. They're kind of brownish with spots. And another seal that I really like the look of is a leopard seal, but it lives in the Antarctic. And I had initially wanted to make this base the seals off of seals that would live in the origin of the myth, which is around like Ireland and stuff. It's like a Celtic myth mostly, like that whole area, like the Nordic Sea or whatever. It's kind of where the myth originates, sort of. There's versions of it in a lot of different cultures. I know the Inuit have myths involving people turning into seals and stuff, but yeah, so that's my little bit. I guess I rambled a bit. That's okay. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed doing this piece. The hardest part near the end was getting the tape off because I used a lot, because I really wanted to make sure it didn't move, and it took a while to get off, but that's okay. But anyway, so here is my Selkie, and I'm definitely gonna have to play with this technique more, so let me know what you guys think, and I might have her up on my store eventually. I'm still working on fixing that up, so just keep an eye out on Twitter. And I guess that does it for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Toodles!